Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another Captain's Log. As always, I'm Captain Beefy with the Game Vault, and we're going to talk about a little game you may have heard of called Diablo 4, as well as some other great stuff that's happening in 2023. Let's cue up the music, and we will get right to it. Alright, well, first and foremost, 2023 is the year for horror games. Survivor horror in particular, and survivor horror remakes even more in particular. We've already had Dead Space come out a couple months ago, which was just phenomenal. Resident Evil 4 remake just hit the mainstream a few days ago, and I've played through 3 or 4 chapters now, and I'm absolutely loving it. The game is just spectacular. And it looks like we're going to get a Alan Wake, I think Alan Wake 2, or maybe the original Alan Wake, and a Silent Hill 2 remake. Both of them projected to come out this year. And on top of that, as far as horror games go, those are all kind of like the survivor horror type games. They're all kind of their own little niche genre there. But going out a little, expanding a little bit beyond that, but staying in the theme of horror type games, we have Dead Island 2 coming out in April. I think it's the 21st, which I'm absolutely looking forward to. That's a much more goofy, fun, arcadey type game that is potentially multiplayer too, and it looks like an absolute blast set in Los Angeles. And then later this year in June, we've got the return of Diablo, with Diablo 4 coming out. And that's the game we're going to look at in particular today, because I got to take part in the beta weekend that just happened, and I'll give you my thoughts on it. So let's start off with the good. The good is it's Diablo. I played the original game back in the 90s. I played Diablo 2 for a long time, probably a decade I would say overall. Diablo 3, fun, lots of fun. I never played Immortal. I skipped Immortal. It's a mobile game, and with what Blizzard did to it and all that, it just did not sound like fun. But Diablo 4, I was looking at with a little trepidation. I'm like, well, not really sure after the Immortal fiasco what we're going to see. So, and I tried really, really hard, I swear, to not play the beta weekend. I didn't want to ruin things in case I got the game, which I was, kind of on the fence on, but the more I heard about it, the more I wanted to play it. So, I was like, you know what, screw it. Progress doesn't carry over, and the thing that really sold me is you get a really cool cosmetic, which is a little baby wolf thing that you can wear. And who doesn't like a little doggo to take with them on their journey when they're fighting the forces of hell, right? Right. Okay. So, I played it. I played 3 different characters and started a 4th, and I was like, you know what, I've had enough. This was good. This was enough for me to know whether or not I'm going to go forward and buy this game and play this game. So, starting off with the good, like I said, it's more Diablo. It's the same type of game that harkens back to the original, which is an action role-playing game, an ARPG. It involves a lot of loot. You've got your different tiers of loot, from your common loot up to your legendary loot, with several levels in between. It's got skills that you have to master, and each skill has, or a lot of the skills have little upgrades that you can add to them, and then beyond that, they have a second upgrade that you have to choose between 2. So you can say, and I'm just going to make something up here, Fireball, right? So you have Fireball, you can level it 5 times, then you can say, alright, well, I want Fireball to have a larger radius. Okay, cool, now it has a larger radius. And then you have to choose between 2 other things, like, let's say, Fireball deals damage for a longer period of time, or Fireball will jump to the next enemy nearby for less damage, or whatever. Just at that last one, you have to decide which one you want to go with, because you can't have both, which is kind of cool. So that's going to create a lot of different varieties just in the skill set, as far as building your character. And the trees look pretty large. From my understanding, you will not have enough levels to level everything up. So, don't even think about it. Well, I'll just get up to level 500 and have everything. No, it's not like that. It's not like Assassin's Creed Valhalla. This is, you're going to have to carefully pick and choose which ones you want to upgrade and utilize, and it'll suit your playstyle. Now, you can buy back points if you say, you know what, I really thought that would be cool, but I'm not using it and I don't like it. It will cost you gold, but you can do it. And gold looks like it's going to be very plentiful in the game, so I wouldn't even worry about that. Although things get very expensive, that doesn't matter. But that's looking just a very basic look at the skill set. Then you got equipment. Now equipment, again, several different levels, and you get equipment dropping to you based on your level. So as you're progressing through this game, you're going to be constantly getting better and better gear. It's going to upgrade constantly, so every time you go out and come back into town, you're going to want to look through your gear and make sure that you are utilizing the best gear possible for your character. Now, not only does that gear have basic stats like, defense or attack damage and stuff like that, it's also going to have other perks to it, and depending on the level of the gear, whether it's legendary or basic, it could have multiple ones. And sometimes the best piece of gear you have, the best shield you have may not be the one that prevents the most damage, or the best weapon you have may not be the one that causes the most damage. You'll have to make some serious choices based off your character and your playstyle. Is it better to use an axe that deals 200 damage, or should you use the one that deals 150 damage but gives you other perks, like it gives more damage to special abilities that you use for your barbarian, just for instance there. So there's that. You can also upgrade a lot of these pieces of equipment with the blacksmith, and that'll just make them stronger. You're not upgrading the class of the item, you're just upgrading the actual strength of the item itself. So if you have a rare piece of armor and you upgrade it, it looks like you can upgrade it up to 4 times. I did that with some legendary ones. I haven't explored everything in the game, but I'm just giving you some overviews here on what can be done. But you can, for instance, I upgraded a helm that was legendary, and I was able to upgrade it 4 times, so it boosted the defense 4 times, making it much stronger than the original one I found. I was like, oh, this is so exciting. It was expensive. I was so happy to do that and all that. And then I went out and found a better helm 5 minutes later, and I was like, son of a bitch. But anyway, so there's that. You have a Paragon system, which kicks in, I believe, at level 50, and that allows you to seriously customize your character through a lot of different things. Now, we were only able to get up to level 25 in the beta, so I couldn't test the Paragon system, but there is a Paragon system, so that allows leveling far beyond your main characters or your regular 50 levels and all that. So there's always a reason to keep going. So you won't just run out of skill points at the end. Well, now, yeah, you're out of skill points, but you can start upgrading your Paragon levels and really customizing your character. And I believe, and I'm not 100% sure, but correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the Paragon points are for your entire account, which is cool. So it's not like you have to level Paragon for every single character. It's an account-wide thing, and it'll do stuff like deal more damage, gain more health, yada yada yada, stuff like that. So that's the skills, that's the Paragon, and that's the equipment. Oh, gems are back too, by the way. I haven't seen runes, I haven't heard anything about runes, but gems are back, and just like always, you have to go to the jeweler, you have to reach a certain level to be able to do it, and then you can socket gems into your various weapons and armor and so forth to give them even more power on top of what they already have. So it's pretty cool system. Now, the world itself, a Sanctuary, is very Diablo-esque. It harkens back to Diablo 2 more than 3. 3 was a little brighter, and the tone felt a little different. 2 was very dark and gritty and dirty. 3, it was still a dark game and demonic and all that with, the enemies and all. but the look of it was a little bit brighter. Blizzard caught a lot of grief for it, whatever. It didn't bother me a bit. I was just like, okay, just a little bit different art style. This one goes back to the down and dirty and takes it another step beyond. Even in these opening areas, when you go into a small dungeon or something like that, they're absolutely hideous looking. You've got weird tentacles growing out of the walls, you've got blood, you've got all this disgusting stuff everywhere, and it's pretty creepy looking. And there's a lot of these little side dungeons and cellars and all that kind of stuff, so there's so much to explore in this game, it's not even funny. Even leveling up these couple of characters barely scratched the surface. You weren't allowed to leave the first area. It's an open world game with, I think, 5 different regions. You weren't even allowed to leave the first area. It just limited you to that, limited you to level 25, and, put some severe limits on things, which is great. It was enough to get get a taste of what's to come, and I believe it gives you enough information to decide if you want to buy this game and if you want to play this game, because it looks like it could be fun, and if it's anything like 2, it'll be a game that'll stick around for years. I know they plan on supporting it with battle passes and the like, and seasons, or whatever you want to call it. That's cool. If you're going to be introducing new stuff, new abilities, whatever, then fine, have at it. Have fun, have fun, Blizzard, and we'll see what happens there. Now, the mediocre part of the game is that even though it being a Diablo game is good, it was still very, very Diablo, especially Diablo 2 with a lot of 3 thrown into it. So, and that's to say that even though things are different and it's newer and you got a fresh coat of paint and everything looks cooler and all that, it has a very samey feel to it that the older Diablo games had. And depending on your love of these games, that might not be a bad thing. If you didn't like 2 and 3 or 1, well, you're not going to like this one. If you like those earlier ones, you're probably going to love this one. And I did too. I was hoping for maybe an update on the way the game's played or the angle in which the camera is and all that, but it just feels like a Diablo game. And it's not a bad thing. Like I said, it's just kind of like, I felt like they could have gone a slightly different direction. I'm not talking about turning it into an FPS or anything like that, but you know what? It works as it is, so screw it. I'm not upset about it. I'm not disappointed about it. I was just kind of thinking that, well, maybe we'll see some kind of interesting new look to the game that will really set this apart, and I didn't get that. Now, what I didn't like about the game, and I think this is something that's going to be addressed before its June 6th release, and we've got over a month for that, is the characters' classes felt like they were hugely out of whack and not balanced. My first character I played through as was a necromancer, and almost from the start I was pretty OP. I mean, I got hammered a couple times, and that's mainly because I was just running through trying to see as much crap as I could and gain my levels as quickly as possible. So, there's some sloppy play involved in all that. I imagine if I had been taking my time with it and just exploring and, being super careful, I would never have died. And I went right, you were able to start on 2 levels, the regular level and the veteran level. I went right for veteran. And I recommend whenever this game releases, whatever the hardest difficulty is, that you start playing on that immediately, especially if you've played Diablo before. Now, if you've never played Diablo before, that might not be a good thing for you, but the thing about playing on veteran as opposed to regular is you get more gold dropped and you get more XP per kill. So in essence, you level quicker and you get stuff so quickly, you get gear so quickly that you'll go from being a crappy little noob character with nothing on him other than the stock gear he comes with into a guy that can handle himself pretty quickly, and then into a beast after a little while once you really start looking at your gear and picking the most important and best ones out that you want. Then you're going to be awesome. You're going to kick some butt. So yeah, the Necromancer is very powerful. The Sorceress, very, very powerful. She felt great to play as well. Both of those characters have a lot of range to their abilities. The Necromancer, of course, starts off with his little skeletal minions. And let me tell you, those little bastards are tough. They would just run out there, and I think you start with 4 of them, if I'm not mistaken. It's either 3 or 4. And they just hack things to bits right away. And, you know, eventually you can upgrade them, make them tougher, you can get an extra one, and somehow I got skeletal mages as well. I wasn't paying attention to whatever skill I did to get that, but hey, it was cool. So I was running around with 5, it was either 4 or 5 regular skeletons and then 3 mages. And anywhere I went, I would just, you know, lead off with like a blood spear or a bone spear and then shoot my little regular fighting thing while these guys all just rushed in and attacked. You know, the mages would hang back and cast spells, dealing damage, and then the little skeleton warriors would just run in there and hack and slash with their little swords and shields. And they take damage and all that, but they heal up pretty quick once you're out of combat, so you're not constantly having to recycle them and eventually running out of corpses. So it felt overpowered right from the start. The sorceress was great. I used the basic freezing bolt as my main weapon. Then the second thing I got was chain lightning, and I upgraded that. And then I went for the Hydra, which is a fire spell where you cast a Hydra head down, and it starts with 3 of them, and they just sit there and shoot fireballs, because I wanted ice, fire, and electricity represented by this character, and that's how I did it. And she was great. You know, she had a lot of fun. Every now and then she'd take a beating. She got beat up more than the Necromancer, definitely not as tough, and I didn't take her to level 25 and get all the awesome gear that I got for the Necromancer, but like I said, I just wanted to get my feet wet. I wanted to get a taste of this game to see how it felt. So the third character I tried out was the Druid, and boy was that hard. Even the very first dungeon you face off and the first boss you face in there was very, very challenging. It killed me the first time I faced it, and I had to go against it a second time and be really careful and really meticulous with my fighting. Whereas with the Necromancer, I just went in there and spammed my little bolts, and then I would shoot my bone lance or my blood lance, whatever, in most combat situations, while my skeletons and skeletal mages did all the rest of the cleanup work. Very easy. And, you know, it was similar with the sorcerer, but she, you know, had to wait for her mana to regenerate, so it could be a little challenging if you busted out a few spells real quick, drained your mana down. Now you're kind of helpless and just shooting off your regular little attack while your mana rebuilds, so you can go on and do another salvo. But, you know, out of all the characters, you know, I only played 3 of them. 2 of them were one of them was very overpowered. The sorceress held her own, although if she got into a situation where she got mobbed, she'd get her butt kicked and sometimes killed. And that poor Druid, man, holy cow, she took an ass whooping of epic proportions. It was not fun. I'll tell you that. But, you know, in the end, I get it. You got to have these different character classes, and I probably wasn't using the right skill set for my playstyle. I don't know. I didn't do a lot of research into all that. I just wanted to get out there and have some fun and kick some butt. So, but overall, this is a win for me. I think this game's going to be great, and I think it's going to have some legs to it. It'll stick around for a few years and get a monstrous fan base and player base that will support the game for a long time to come. With season passes and all that, that may turn some people off. I know it's a stickler for a lot of people. You want to, you know, this is not a cheap game to start off with. It's a $70 game, and if you go for like the Super Deluxe Edition, it's $100 freaking dollars, and then they want another $10 or $20 off you every 3 to 4 months, whatever. Yeah, that's a hard pill to swallow sometimes, but it is what it is. So I definitely recommend the game. If you're a Diablo fan at all, you like ARPGs, this looks like it's going to have a good time attached to it. With 5 different characters to play as, and if they do it like they did Diablo 3, every time you beat a certain difficulty, the next difficulty is going to unlock. So it looks like you'll be able to just keep ramping up the difficulties, and in doing so, you'll receive better and better equipment as prizes for fighting creatures on those levels and eventually beating them, which That's kind of like the heart of Diablo. It's like, just how powerful can I get? You know, just how powerful can I get? So anyway, if you enjoyed this video at all, please leave a like on it down below. And let me know in the comments if you're planning on playing Diablo 4 when it comes out in June. I'd love to hear from you if you are. And if you do, man, I'd love to party up with you sometimes. I will be live streaming that game, I'm sure. It looks like a fun game to live stream, as well as doing some videos on builds and all that. I'm not doing a walkthrough on it. It's be kind of silly for that type of game. But other stuff, we'll do some other stuff. And tell me down below what you'd like to see from me for Diablo 4 as far as content goes. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Ring that bell for notifications. I do videos daily. Captain's Log comes out every Monday. I'll see you guys next time. Until then, peace.